Welcome to the Computer Tutor. We're going to start a new project, and I'm going to show you what the project looks like when it's complete. Okay, so you see there's a dinosaur bird that attacks the witch, and if it hits the witch, you get this sound and you stop it. So I'll start it again. I can move it back and forth. And I can shoot arrows. And when arrow hits the bird, it stops it. So I can move it back and forth. I got hit again. Whenever I hit the bird with an arrow, it stops it. So that's the project. And this is going to be a fairly complicated project. It's going to take 2 or 3 videos to show you all the code, but there's a lot of fun things you can learn that you can use in other things, especially shooting the arrows is what you would do if you were making a video game. Okay, so I'm going to stop it and I'm going to minimize. Okay, so um, let's go back to the Scratch home page. I have created a starter project because it has a sound file. So if I search for Good Witch starter project, I find a project with a cat, says Good Witch starter. So I'm going to click on that. And then I'm going to say remix, which means that I'm going to take this one and I'm going to, like when you remix a music video and you put your own beat to it. And then I'm just going to change the name. I'm going to call it Good Witch Lesson 1. And I'm going to go to File, and I'm going to save now. So the first thing I'm going to do is click on Costumes. And when you click on Costumes, you see this little picture of a cat video. So what you'll do is you click on the cat picture. It's going to load. I'm going to click on Fantasy. And I think it's near the bottom. Do I have my witch? Okay. So I'm going to use all the witch costumes. So I'm going to load Witch A. Go back to fantasy. I'm going to load Witch B. Go back to fantasy. Witch C. And go back to fantasy. Oh, I'm in everything. And choose Witch D. Now I can get rid of the cat. So I click on the cat and I click on the little trash can. Okay, let's save it now. I like to save. It's a good habit, whatever you're programming, because if something happens with your computer and you get messed up and you spend an hour working on it, then all of a sudden you've lost everything you've done in the last hour. You have to do it over again. All right. Now, and all the way over on the right, we can click on the stage and there's a little picture icon. And, oh, here it is. I'm using castle number 4. Okay. You can see the witch is much too big. We want to make it so she comes up. Her hat is right about the level of this person pushing a baby carriage. So let's, instead of 100, let's do 33. And then I click the witch, and that's about the size that I want. Okay. And then we'll go over to code. And the first thing I'm going to do on the code block, if I can grab this and go up here, I want to have a key that starts everything. Instead of the green flag key, I'm going to pick a letter. And so I go to events and see when space is pressed, except instead of space is pressed, I'm going to pick the letter B because the letter B happens to be right on top of the space bar. And I'm going to also be hitting the space bar. So you can have one finger on the space bar and one finger on the letter B. So what do I want to do when the letter B is? In Scratch, you can send a message. That means you send a message and all the other sprites and all the other codes, when they get the message, you can tell them to do something. So I'm going to click on the message and I'm going to say new message. And the message is going to be start. Okay. So the first thing I'm going to do, remember we had 4 costumes for the witch, A, B, C, D. You may have seen this before, is we're going to animate the witch. So we go back to events. I guess we're already in events. You say, when I receive the start message, so you do the when I receive block, and then you click on the little down arrow. When I receive the start, I'm going to go to the control block, and I'm going to put a forever loop. And loops are very important to program. You tell it to do something over and over and over. In this case, you tell it to do it forever. So what am I going to tell it to do? I'm going to go to the looks, and I'm going to say next costume, and then I'm going to go to the control, and I'm going to say wait 0.25 seconds. 0.25 is 1/4 of a second. So it's going to switch the costumes 4 times a second. Okay, I'm going to go to the top. I'm going to say File, Save Now. And then when I click on this little box with the arrows going out, it goes full screen. So what happens when I hit the B key? You can see that she's changing her costume. All right. Now I'm going to hit the stop flag. So that's the first step. Maybe I want to make the witch a little bit smaller. Let's try 28. I think that's good. Okay. All right. I need to create a variable that I'm going to use later in the program. Variables are things that you can store values. And so I'm going to click on variables, and I'm going to click on this little square, this little button that says make a variable. And I'm going to create a variable called moving. And when you create a variable, it shows it on the stage. But for this one, I don't think I need to see it. Sometimes you want to see the variables. It tells you what your program is doing. All right. So now I'm going to go back to events, and I'm going to say when I receive start, let's move this up. We can move this up on top of this so we have more room. When I receive start, I'm going to say, I'm going to go to control. No, I'm going to go to variables. And I'm going to set moving to on. The variable is going to have two values. It's going to be on and off. So right now we're turning it on that the witch can move and things can move. And the next thing we're going to do is let's put the witch right. If I if I put my mouse on a sprite and I hold down the left key, I can drag it. So I'm going to put her in the bottom, just to the right side of the woman pushing the baby carriage. And then I'm going to go to motion block, and I'm going to pick the go to block, and that's the position. So let's see what happens now. And I won't go full screen. If I hit the B, oh, the reason it didn't do it, I didn't change the message. I have to change the message to start. Now when I hit the B, no matter where the witch is, she goes to the position. and minus 80, I'll stop it. So is going left and right. So if the middle is 0, she's 80 steps to the right, 80 steps to the left. And if and the next and the number minus 137 is how far up or down she is. So if 0 is the middle, like this would be 100 steps, this would be 150 steps, this would be 180 steps. So she's from the middle, she's 80 steps to the left and 137 steps to the 137 steps down. Okay. Now I need another forever block. And because this is going to be another loop, she's always going to be looking for if you hit the left key or the right key. So I'm going to put an if block here. And if blocks are important. Every computer language has some kind of an if statement. If something, if you won the prize, then you get $100. If you didn't win the prize, then you paid a dollar for a ticket and you lost $1. So what do I want to look for? I'm going to sensing and I'm going to look for, or maybe it's events. Oh yeah, it's in events. See this? All right, here's what I want. See this block said key space pressed? Okay, I'm going to grab this key space pressed, and this is in the light blue sensing palette. So, except I'm not looking for the space key, I'm going to look for which arrow? The right arrow key. So if I hit the right arrow key, I want to move the witch a little bit to the right. And the way that I do that is, remember the X in this is the number line. And every time you go to the right, the number line gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And if you go to the left, your number line gets smaller. So let's have her move 5 steps. And then I'm going to go to control and I'm going to put another if block. And then I'm going to go back to sensing and I'm going to put key pressed. And I'm going to say the left arrow key. And I'm going to tell it to move minus 5 steps. So 5 steps is 5 steps to the right. And minus 5 steps is 5 steps to the left. So let's save that. And let's go full screen. Hit the B key. All right, what happens? Every time I hit the right key, she goes to the right, but she won't go off the screen. And every time I hit the left arrow key, she goes to the left. So this is good code because you can make all kinds of games when you're hitting keys. You know, you're moving things around. Okay. All right. I'm going to stop this now. So this is going to be a somewhat short lesson, and then I'll see you in the next lesson.